Immediate relief to Americans, stocks surging as the White House expresses support for cash payments to individuals as part of a coronavirus relief package. The Dow closing down. Let's see where we can see that there. Up 1,042 points. Sorry, we're in a new room and I can't see the board. I'm Melissa Francis. Connell?
Ooh, I'm Connell McShane. Scared me there for a moment, but it's been a crazy couple of weeks. Welcome to After the Bell, everybody. The S&P 500, the NASDAQ, also up big time, up 6% there on the S&P. You know, this follows the worst day for the market since the crash, or the Dow at least, since the crash of '87 yesterday. So we get this snapback rally, and as we get into our Fox Business team coverage, we have a lot of headlines today to go through. Jackie DeAngelis on the floor at the New York Stock Exchange. Chad Pergram has plenty of news on Capitol Hill that we'll get to. But first to Hillary Vaughn, live at the White House. Hillary.
Connell, Secretary Steve Mnuchin saying he wants to move past a payroll tax cut and instead put cash into people's hands as part of this relief effort, this economic stimulus package tied to the coronavirus crisis. Mnuchin in a meeting with senators on Capitol Hill this afternoon asking for at least $200 billion for these cash payments that would either be a check or a direct deposit, saying he wants to get this cash into people's hands in 2 weeks. I asked Secretary Mnuchin today if they are looking at boosting the restaurant industry in addition to airlines as part of an economic relief package. Mnuchin says they will be rolling out a special program that helps small and mid-sized businesses, and restaurants and franchisees are going to be a part of that.
This is not like a normal economic situation. The government has requested that parts of this economy shut down, and the president is determined. You can think of this as business interruption money. The president is determined we will put money back into this economy to protect hardworking Americans and small businesses.
President Trump meeting with leaders in the tourism industry, including executives from Marriott, Hilton, Disney, Universal, MGM, and Best Western. Marriott's CEO told President Trump they've seen their business in China fall by 90%. Hilton's CEO says he's been in the industry for 35 years and tells the president he has not seen anything like this before.
You're in many countries, and how are you doing in other countries?
Just a few days or maybe a week, we will probably be running 10 to 15% occupancy.
All over the world, it's a disaster.
All over the world, it's a disaster. There's not one part of the world that's not being severely impacted.
Many CEOs today told the president that they are having to lay off tens of thousands of workers, and they say they need economic relief to make sure those employees do not stay out of work as a result of this crisis. Connell?
Yeah, the Hilton CEO's comments putting things in perspective. Thank you, Hillary. And for more on how that economic relief package is playing up on Capitol Hill, let's go there now. And Fox's congressional correspondent Chad Pergram joins us. What's the latest, Chad?
Well, Stephen Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, just left Capitol Hill. He met with Senate Republicans over lunch. He says they need to infuse the economy with cash fast. He wants lawmakers to come to an accord quickly. Just before we came on the air, we learned that the Treasury Secretary spoke by phone for about 25 minutes with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Here's the problem, however, Connell. The Senate has still not cleared those two bills approved by the House of Representatives. There was the big bill that they approved in the wee hours of Saturday morning, and then they had to do a technical fix bill, sent them both over to the Senate. That was yesterday. They are stuck. The Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is trying to pry those bills loose. Listen.
A number of my members think there are considerable shortcomings in the House bill. My counsel to them is to gag and vote for it anyway, even if they think it has some shortcomings, and to address those shortcomings in the bill that we're in the process of crafting.
McConnell says the Senate will not leave until they pass the new bills, and the Senate will move at what he termed, quote, warp speed for the Senate. He wants solutions from Republican senators divided into three teams to write the new bill quickly, but the legislation still has to have Democratic buy-in. Remember, you must get 60 votes in the Senate to overcome a filibuster.
People who are hurting for economic reasons, that they've been laid off, they're not getting paid, they can't work, because their kids are at home and they can't work. This is job number one. Targeted, bold, quick, strong aid.
Now, in the consultations with Nancy Pelosi, she wants to expand the scope of medical leave, help independent workers in the gig economy like Uber drivers, and also give special benefits to healthcare workers and first responders. So if they get this piece of legislation, this new bill through the Senate, they hope maybe sometime later this week, they would then have to send everything back to the House of Representatives. But they want to have complete universal dial-in between both the House and Senate, Democrats and Republicans, so that they can limit the amount of time members have to spend in Washington. In fact, they haven't even had a full roll call vote in the Senate so far this week because they're trying social distancing. They're trying to keep members out of the Senate chamber for prolonged periods of time. And even Mitch McConnell today talked about a scenario where maybe when they go to those votes, they would bring them in smaller groups so everybody doesn't have to be in the same room at the same time.
Right, because they still can't vote remotely. They have to be there physically to do it, right? All right, Chad, thank you. Chad Pergram on Capitol Hill. Melissa.
All right, Connell, the Dow bouncing back after briefly dropping below 20,000 earlier today. Jackie DeAngelis is at the New York Stock Exchange. Wild ride today, Jackie.
Good afternoon to you, Melissa. That's exactly right. So we started higher. We dipped into negative territory and then slowly clawed our way back. We gave some back. Then we came back to almost a session high at the close here. So the Dow is up more than 5%, 1,049. The S&P 500 up 6%, adding 143 points. So this was a sigh of relief after that massive day yesterday. But I talked about how we dipped negative because a lot of traders here said testing that negative level and dropping under 20,000 was exactly that. It was a test. Sometimes the markets will do that before they actually go to those levels and close there. So it's something to think about as we continue to watch this back and forth. It seems like we have these dramatic swings to the downside. Buyers come in, or you get some positive headlines coming out of the administration, as we did today, and some of the confidence is restored. But it's so headline driven that one headline that can derail that confidence can be a problem. Want to draw your attention to the biotech stocks because they are seeing a little bit of a surge today. You've got Moderna, Regeneron, Pfizer. These are all companies that are working on things related to the coronavirus and seeing some positive developments there. So they were up 11%. Regeneron saw its gain today. Finally, let's look at oil prices because, wow, the $27 level, this is really dramatic. We haven't seen oil down here since the United States really started producing a lot more with that shale boom years ago, which took oil prices from over 100 to that $25 level. I mean, I almost cannot believe that we're back there as a result of this virus, but concerns about demand do indeed have us there. The final point that I'll make is it was about retail and restaurants today. That tri-state mandate that you have to close a lot of these places down to takeout only, that seems to be spreading across the country. You have people like McDonald's and Wendy's saying it's going to be pickup and takeout only. You're not going to be sitting down to dine. And a lot of the retailers, Macy's, Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom, saying temporarily we are shutting our stores, guys.
Absolutely. Jackie, thank you.